Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of January 1st to the 7th of 2024. All right, so happy Gregorian New Year, everyone. This is the first week of the new year and starting right off the bat on Monday the 1st. So a lot of the astrological energy is concentrated at the early part of the week here around the Monday through Wednesday time period. We've got Mercury going station direct. So a pause with Mercury station these first few days is good to usually pause with things in general. Mercury rules our mind, our communication, and also our day-to-day sort of activities and correspondences. And so it's usually good to just kind of pause and maybe reflect a little bit on the past few weeks during that retrograde. What have we learned? What are some new perspectives we've gained? And maybe what are some new things that we can start to implement now that Mercury starts to build more momentum moving forward? It is a great week for implementation in general from about Wednesday onward, as we will be in the third quarter moon. So any perspectives from last week's full moon, any new shifts of insights, anything you've set out to do this second half of the month is really good to start to implement this week, being in the third quarter. And Mars is going into Sagittarius this week, passing over the galactic center from the weekend. And so there's certainly, I think, a bit of fire adding to the mix. And Mars, the part of ourself that is our drives, our needs, our desires, I think is feeling quite transformed, quite healed, quite empowered as we start to get into more of that fire energy. All right, so let's go and take a look at this as well as some of the other aspects that we have here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here is the sky for this week. We're going to look at this for each day of the week, starting first with Monday, January 1st. And as you can see here, we are using the visible sky on this channel, which is very different from mainstream astrology. You will notice the signs are different. For example, I will be talking about how the sun is in Sagittarius, but perhaps you were expecting me to say that the sun is in Capricorn. So if that's the case, definitely check out the link down below for more information. This is using the visible sky called True Sidereal Astrology. All right, so a bit of a recap since we've recently had some sign changes here. Really this week, we've got a mix between the water energies and the fire energies. So the fire is where we've got the sun in Sagittarius and now Mars entering Sagittarius. So it's great to be focused on life in a way that I think is open-minded. I think it's free-spirited, optimistic, forward-thinking. But also quite adventurous as well. So anything that is about expanding both our mental and literal horizons, I think is great to be focused on. And I think now with Mars shifting into here this week, anything that's about our goals, our drives, our needs, towards more spiritedness, towards our inspirations, for example, I think is a great way of working with this week as a whole. But there is still that deeper water energy with Mercury, who is stationed in healing Ophiuchus, and Venus, who's recently shifted into deep Scorpio. And so that's still definitely going on. And I think our minds are still in the underworld. And so I think it's great to still be unearthing things about ourselves, about life, what have you, thinking about things in a deeper way, communicating in a deeper way as well. And with Venus in Scorpio, I think valuing and connecting in a way that's deeper, valuing depth, truth, vulnerability, trust, things like this, both about ourselves, life in general, and of course relationships, as Venus often symbolizes that as well. So definitely the mix between that fire and water energy going on this week. But the real astrological events are early in the week. We've got that Mercury station. So Mercury paused in the sky relative to the constellations these first couple days. Usually a good time to just kind of see where things are shifting and then slowly build some momentum, as then Mercury will go direct as then we go through the rest of the week here. But the station period, usually there's a shift, and it's a shift of perspective or a shift of insight, or again, starting to implement the things we've learned or reconsidered the past few weeks. Or maybe quite literally, there's been some things on the back burner or things you've literally been re-editing, redoing, or fixing that can then be implemented. So that implementation, I think, starts to pick up later Tuesday, but really like Wednesday onwards. And so just giving a little bit of that pausing time the first couple days is, I think, a great way of working with this. And again, that's also when we start to come into the more action-oriented phase of the lunar cycle, is around Wednesday, when we do enter into the third quarter moon of the lunar cycle, which is all about implementing really the full moon energy. So the full moon was a week prior to this, and usually we get some new perspectives on life during the full moon. Maybe we set out to do some things for the remainder of the lunar cycle. And so this is the type of week where we're usually really willing to, wanting to, and really capable of implementing these things. And we have a lot of support to do that. So it's really that kind of shifting week, I think, here, this kind of Tuesday, Wednesday time period. But early in the week still, on Monday, we do have some perhaps reserved energy, maybe a bit of patience needed with things. Venus will be squaring Saturn. Saturn is the more long-term view of things and usually calls us to have a bit of patience and perseverance with things. So with this, it's about our values, and it's about perhaps relational stuff as well. So anything that's about seeing the long-term value of things, the long-term enjoyment, the long-term connection of things is a great way of working with this sort of Monday time. Monday will also have the moon in Leo, which is really where we had it over the weekend. And so perhaps also on Monday, anything about expressing ourselves and connecting to the things and people that we love in life, I think is a great way of working with that Monday specifically. But then again, as we start to get to Tuesday, Mercury slowly builds a little bit of that momentum. We start to get into the more action-oriented phase of the lunar cycle. Then we have the moon in Virgo for pretty much the whole rest of the work week, all the way through Friday. So Tuesday through Friday, really good for improvement, refinement, taking care of things, getting into the details. It's usually a great time for all things developmental, whether it's personal development, our work development, our environment development, anything that's about getting into that improvement orientation, I think is great. And I think that's really the bulk of this week here with the moon there. All right. And then as we do get into the weekend, the moon will shift into Libra. And so I think it'll be a good weekend for a bit of balance and perhaps noticing some themes around balance. How can we bring things into balance in our life, whether it's our, say, home and career, or maybe it's our relationships and our own independent life. Anything that's about recalibrating things, I think, is great. And usually we notice some themes around justice or what's right and fair, or morality. And so anything that's around relationship stuff or bringing things into balance there, I think could be a good weekend for that. And a minor aspect as well over the weekend, the sun will be scoring up to Chiron. So Chiron is that healer comet, and in this case we can challenge ourselves to do some healing if we want. I think it'll be particularly with our self-expression, which is the sun energy, but anything that feels like it's moving through some wounds, some fears, some inhibitions, whether it's self-expression or otherwise, I think that could be a great way of working with the weekend on a sort of minor note or a backdrop note. Could be, more empowering and transformative time, as if we do set any intentions to do some personal healing there, if we choose to. All right, so that's the week in a nutshell. Pretty straightforward. I mean, most of the energy is early in the week in terms of what's going on astrologically. We've got Mercury pausing Monday and Tuesday. We then start to implement things and things moving forward about Wednesday onwards. We've got that Mars going into Sagittarius, which also adds to that forward movement of things, since Mars is our drives and our assertive side, going into a much more comfortable fire sign of Sagittarius after perhaps a transformative weekend, and maybe this week, starting to feel a bit empowered and healed, coming into this week with that Mars. Just a little bit of patience here, maybe around some things on Monday, and then over the weekend, maybe a little bit of challenging ourselves to empower ourselves a little bit. But that's kind of the name of the game for the week anyways, because it really is a mix between that deep water, which is, again, great to connect and think about and get into that underworld with Venus and Mercury. But there is also that free-spirited energy of Sag. So it's that water and fire, that emotion and spirit, that I think is a great combination, and again, a great way of working with the week. All right, so everyone have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click the like button if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you haven't yet signed up for MTZ Insiders, it is a free newsletter. We do get these videos released first before YouTube and extra content not normally released on YouTube, like articles, discounts, podcasts, things like that, all true sidereal. Anyways, there's a link down below for that. It's absolutely free to sign up. But again, have a great week, everyone, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.